So with these words, without without wasting much of the time, I will request the uh, Dr. Ravinder to take over and proceed with the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's you are always a source of inspiration, and we, from the bottom of our heart, the entire committee wants to extend a thanks to you for encouraging us for conducting such webinars. I would request Rashi to briefly tell us about our speaker of the day. And before she does, again, a heartfelt gratitude to you, Taran, on behalf of the entire organizing committee that at such a short notice, and I know you have a very busy schedule, despite that, you actually conceded to our request and are here to address the students. Thank you so much. Really look forward to your session. I know it's going to be very interesting.
Okay.
Rashi.
Yes, ma'am. It is indeed my privilege to introduce our guest for today, Mr. Taran Singh, Indian entrepreneur and CEO of Melvino, an adaptive learning platform for entrance exams. He is the recipient of Sri Chinmay Deodhar Award by IIT Madras and winner of HeadNext Startup Competition 2018. He holds his integrated masters from IIT Madras and has been featured in Zee News, India Today, The New Indian Express, and many other notable media platforms. He was a keynote speaker at Think Edu Conclave 2019 by the New Indian Express and has been actively spreading seeds of entrepreneurship by being associated as a key speaker with Million Minds. Taran actively consults startups on go-to-market strategy, product management, and product growth. We all are really very, very excited for this session. And without further delay, I request speaker to start the session. So, sir, you are on mute, sir.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Rashi, for such a warm introduction, and thank you, Ravinder ji. Thank you, Principal Sir, for having me here, and all the students who are attending the session. I really hope by the end of this session you'll have some new insights on building the product, how to drive the growth in the product, and what is all this product market fit all about. Because uh, if you actually read it about product market fit on internet. Uh, Everybody talks about product market fit. People also talk about what product market fit looks like. But if you actually start to search about the resources on how to achieve product market fit, I'll tell you, you will not find even a single article which tells about how to reach product market fit. Everyone talks about iterations. So, without further ado, I would want to get started with this session and first talk about the very basics, what product market fit is, what it means to have achieved the product market fit, and also discuss about what product market fit is not. So one can first clearly differentiate what exactly this means. This whole term product market fit, what this exactly means, and how does this look like? How does this not look like? So one can clearly differentiate कि you have the product market fit or you don't have the product market fit, right? And then we will also discuss about these steps, how we can reach the product market fit. So this is how I'm going to, this is how I've planned the whole session. And if you guys have any doubt in between, feel free to maybe raise your hand or put your questions. I'll be very happy to, answer it then and there. Or if you have some suggestions, I'll be very happy ki, maybe we can make the session even more interactive. So I think this is good with you all. So we can just start the session. Does this sound good?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would also appreciate ki if all of you can just maybe say yes or no whenever I ask you to, because at least that will give me a bit of understanding ki you guys are able to follow whatever we are discussing, because this is not more like a college lecture where you just have to listen and make notes. This is more of an interactive session where you can also tell about your questions and I can take it up and I can even help you guys maybe give you a better insights on the topic. ठीक है. So feel free to ask question, feel free to pause me, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask it in the ask in between. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And please keep responding so we can make the session more interactive. Okay, so just don't get completely mute. So let's start with this. So I have my tablet here connected, so I'll just project my whole screen. Is it possible to project my screen? Yeah. Are you guys able to see my screen? I've
Yes, sir.
shared it from another
Yes, yes,
device.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Rashi, if possible, whoever is the admin, can you just pin this whole this device so everyone can see my screen?
So the screen is pinned at the participants end.
Okay, so the screen is pinned, right? Everyone can see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Great, great. Okay, so let's start discussing about what exactly does product market fit means. So when you actually go in the market with a idea, so idea actually means like you have a solution to one of the problems. So let's say if I talk about let's say about the market. Just give me 1 second. I think some issue with my pen. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So whenever you're going in the market, you have two things. One is your problem space. What basically means is, what kind of problem exists in the market. So I can say this is the problem space, right? And then there is something called the solution space, which you are going in the market with a solution to that problem, right? So I can say something like this is the solution space. I'll denote it with S. So P is the problem space, S is the solution space. And there will be a small intersection between the two, because whatever solution you make, that will that will be roughly solving the problem. So let's say I see a problem in the market. Let's say ki people are uh, people have problem with, let's say, going to coaching centers. Let's talk about, let's say, test preparation. People have problem with going to coaching centers. They have longer commute time and everything. So my solution could be ki I'll make the teacher come to your place so you don't have to really commute. So that kind of solution could exist, but again that might not completely solve the problem of the student, because maybe the student is not just having problem with commuting. Maybe the student also wants, maybe like bit uh, maybe fairer prices or something of that sort. Or maybe he's not really comfortable with a tutor or an educator visiting at his place, right? So there could be even the solution might not completely fit into the problem space, right? But there will be a small intersection ki your solution will be solving a bit of that issue, that problem. Okay. Over the time, what you do is ki you try to take surveys, you try to take the feedback from the customer about your solution, and then your solution space might look something of this sort. your solution space might look like something like this. There will be a higher intersection. If you get closer to this whole problem of the student, you will get a higher intersection. So what basically I'm trying to explain here is ki when there exists a problem in the market, and you will go out with a solution what you think is one of the solutions what you're proposing, you will be able to get a bit of idea ki, okay, this is solving the problem but not completely. So in that case it will have a lower intersection. In that case, let me also draw this at the same time. Maybe I'll just make it slightly better, so I think you guys can understand it better. So this is maybe initial set what you had, and maybe later on this whole thing can become something like this. You have a problem, the problem set remains the same almost, but the solution set actually changes. Over the time the solution you make will have higher intersection with the problem, because again you have got a lot of feedback from the whole market. Now you really understand the problem space, so you have designed a better solution over time. So let me give you a good example of this whole thing. So let's say when we talk about in 2000s, like pre 2000 era, if we talk about that, like 90s era, people didn't used to like, they didn't used to like going out and going to watch going out and watch movies. So the first step was taken by Netflix. Netflix actually came at the time. This was around 2000. The first thing they actually proposed was they used to have their CDs and all, and they used to rent out the CDs. So you don't really have to buy costly tickets. You can just rent out a CD, you can watch the movie, and then you can return it back. That was the initial solution set to that problem. People don't really have that much money, and they don't really want to go out for watching movies. They want to spend a little less, and they want to just stay at their home, comfort of their home, and just watch a movie. So the first solution set proposed by Netflix was renting out CDs for that matter. But over the time, if you have seen the Netflix ka journey, Netflix right now is a streaming platform. It's like a full-fledged streaming platform. So this is how exactly your solution set evolves. Firstly, you will have a bit of idea about the problem set, and over the time, as you get feedback from the customer, plus also the technological advancement over the time, you will be able to create better solution for the same problem. Let's take another small example of the same kind of problem solution fit. Uh, I can give you an example. Let's talk about the automotive industry. The first thing where we came up with, automotive industry was the problem set was people take very long time to commute, right? So the first solution was, take help of, maybe like, animals and everything, have bullock carts and things. These were the things which were prevalent at that time. So that was the solution set. It still wasn't a perfect solution because it was only solving the problem partially, because though it made the travel easier, but again there were a lot of problems. If you're traveling with, let's say in a bullock cart, the suspensions isn't really good. You face a lot of bumpy ride. The journey isn't really smooth. You have to take various stop where the animal gets tired, and you have to keep on feeding the animal. So that really didn't solve the problem that great. But then over the time, with the technological advancement, if you talk about Ford, the Ford was the first company. Henry Ford was the first person, and the Ford was the first company to actually make automobiles, private automobiles, and all the engines and everything which you see around nowadays. So they made this car industry. They are the ones who actually started this whole automobile industry, the cars and everything. So what that ensured is the problem solution fit was even better, because now you are not just traveling like fast, but now you also have a very smooth ride. You don't have to take various stops. Once you have refilled your engine, you can actually travel up to at least like hundreds of kilometers before taking a stop, until and unless you really have some your own brakes, right? But from a solution space, the engine is perfectly well made, it can travel up to hundreds and even thousands of kilometers, right? So I think with over the time, your solution space actually becomes better over the time, and you are able to design better solution for the same problem. The problem set doesn't really changes if you see over the time. So what does product market really fit? What does product market fit really mean? Here, the product, if you see here, the product is your solution space. This is your product. If you talk about, so my pen is really not working. My stylus is not working. So I'm just writing with my hand. So I hope that's really not an issue. So this is your product, which means your solution space, and the problem is the market, right? Right. So your market is actually the problem, having the problem space, and your solution, which you're proposing, is the product, right? So what it really means as a product market fit is basically if your problem space is completely contained inside your solution space. This is P, and let me just change the color. Okay, so if your product space completely lies inside your solution space, it means that you have reached something called product market fit, or something in short, this is called PMF. So basically, that means कि your solution, your solution or your product which you have proposed, that is solving the problem, the need of the customer. That really means the product market fit. I hope at least this much is clear with all of you. So you start with a weak product market fit. So again, product market fit is not something which is binary. It's not like you have product market fit or you don't have product market fit. So product market fit is something which is very continuous and it's very iterative. So you start with a weak product market fit key whenever you propose a solution that is somewhat solving your problem, that is somewhat solving the issue in the market, as you can see here. But over the time, your product market fit actually becomes stronger with more iterations, with more data from the customer, from more feedback. And the more you iterate on your product, the more you get the feedback and you iterate, the stronger your product market fit becomes. And eventually you reach the complete product market fit where your solution space completely overlaps with the problem state, okay, the problem space, right? So this is called product market fit. This is what exactly means to get the product market fit. What it means on the customer space, if you talk about what it means about in the terms of the metrics, how can we really see ki the product market fit has been achieved? It can be very simply seen from all the metrics which you are keeping a track of. So let's say if I want to keep a track of have I actually achieved the product market fit. So one metric which you can definitely see is something like your user acquisition. So this is let's say a time graph, and this is let's say number of users acquired. So let's say this was t equals 0 when you actually started, and this is let's say first month, this is the second month, this is third month, and let's say so on, this is fourth. And let's say this is 12 months ka time period, and this is the number of users. So what you will actually see is ki typically product market fit can take anywhere between generally it takes at least like 2 to 3 years to get a very strong product market fit. uh, but typically you can see ki if you have if there are people who have already worked in companies, or the product managers who are already experienced about how to achieve product market fit, it can be even sooner. You can actually even achieve product market fit within 12 months. So just for sake of understanding, I'm just trying to draw how exactly you can see product market fit will look like. So if I try to draw let's say number of users versus the time thing, So it can look something like this. Ki initially you will have very, very small kind of growth over the time. And let's say you reach product market fit, let's say after, let's say 6 months, which is pretty early though. It's slightly early, but let's assume if you reach product market fit at this time, so your growth will somewhat look like this. What this basically means is once you reach product market fit, your number of users or your retention or any other metric, if you keep a track of, for that matter, all the metrics will suddenly you will see a huge burst in number of in the improvement. If you talk about the delta, if you talk about, all your metrics will I can say it will go haywire once you reach the product market fit. Because what happens is when you actually are solving the need of the customer, the rationale behind this whole thing happening is when you actually solve the exact need of the customer, people start to appreciate your product at that time. They actually start to use your product more often, and they also start to refer your product to even more of the customers. So all these people, they become power users. All these people who are using your product, if your product is actually has reached product market fit, all these people will become power users of your of your product, I would say. So what you will observe is ki initially your growth has been somewhat kind of very, very slow, but after you reach product market fit, your growth numbers will actually go like quite an exponential kind of growth. This has been seen with most of the businesses, but again, there can be some exceptions. These all small bumps you are seeing here, I would say there will be small slight bumps here, not just like this. You can also see something like something of this sort. In reality, you might see some sort of these small bumps uh, of growth in between, but again these will stabilize. uh, has anyone ever worked in a product? Can you guys tell me what these small bumps would actually mean? Why I have drawn maybe these small bumps of growth? What exactly this could mean? Or what is the reason behind having such kind of small bumps in the product growth? Anyone can answer it. Any guesses?
Word of
It might be
mouth
due.
in local.
Word of mouth.
It might.
Someone else was also saying something.
It might be due to like discount. If someone give discount, then suddenly rise in customer.
I couldn't really hear you, Rahul. Come again.
Sir, it might be. It might due to the some discount that is given by the company.
It could be discounts. Okay. So I'll tell what exactly why you can see such kind of bumps. In reality, if you see any business, you will actually see some such kind of bumps. Technically, these bumps comes because of sudden. Let's say if you get a press release, let's say some news agency, let's say Z News or India Today, they cover you and they write an article about you, but your product really hasn't reached product market fit. In that case, still if you see, you will still see once they write an article, there is a sudden increase in growth, because again these press releases and everything, or maybe it could be something like, let's say you launch some video or something and that really went viral, your maybe one of your marketing campaigns that went viral. So in that cases, you can actually see such kind of these kind of growths here, whatever growth you are seeing, sudden growth. But again, since you really don't have a product market fit, uh, you will see this growth will come and again it will drop, not exactly to the same level, but again it will drop. So a realistic graph, if I try to draw a very realistic graph of growth of any product, it could be visualized something of this sort. It will start from zero. There will be slight small bumps. These small bumps are basically the marketing campaigns which you are running. You might be running Google ads, Facebook ads, maybe even you might be doing some content marketing or something, so you'll be seeing some small bumps. But at the same time, maybe some press release came out, some news agency they wrote about you, or some content got viral, or maybe you launch some nice campaign like discounts or something. It could lead to maybe a slightly more bump. It will not come back exactly to the same level, but again it could be like growth like this. And once you reach the product market fit at this stage, let's say you reach the product market fit, at this stage you will see that kind of growth which becomes like really exponential. This is the kind of growth you will see once you reach the product market fit, because at this stage your product becomes so lucrative to the end user that they start referring to your product everyone. So I will give you this example of let's say the best case which you can see is Redmi phones. Xiaomi came in the Indian mobile market. I think someone is commenting something. Okay. Shubham, I think, had some question. Please allow
No,
the
it
students.
is not a question. It is system administration.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, so basically, okay. So we were talking about product market fit. So yeah, so basically, what you will see ki once you reach the product market fit, suddenly all your metrics they will grow exponentially, because this becomes your product becomes very lucrative to the market, and then they start referring your product to everyone and anyone they know. A good example of this can be actually seen by Xiaomi, I would say. So Xiaomi in India was non-existent till I would say like 2014. I would say 2014, 2015. It was almost non-existent. It didn't even have a share of like even 5% in Indian market. 2014, 2015, no one knew Xiaomi in India. But suddenly they came, they made the product so lucrative because they were able to keep a track of what Indians are demanding. Because India is a very price conscious market. Indians want a very smartphones. They actually need budget smartphones. If you see the majority of smartphones which sell in India, I would say 70 to 80% of these smartphones are actually budget smartphones. These are in the range of less than 20,000 range. Uh, so basically, they actually saw that people need phones in India of budget range between 5,000 to 15,000 kind of a range. And if you see the early Xiaomi products, they actually came in that kind of a range, 5,000 to 15,000. And within 2 to 3 years, I remember within 2 to 3 years in 2016 or 2017, I think Xiaomi was the highest selling OEM in India. They were the highest selling manufacturers, phone manufacturers, OEMs. I think the Redmi Note 4, I think that was the highest selling phone ever recorded. And another thing so beautiful about Xiaomi is that they had a very strong, strong sense of the market. They knew what exactly the market is demanding. So they took a good amount of data from the market. What kind of phone people are trying to buy? What kind of issues are with the market? What kind of features are currently lacking? And if you remember the first Xiaomi phones, they actually they were in the 5,000 to 15,000 product range. They had a very good capacitive touch screen. They had like good cameras, and they came with the latest Android version and whatnot. And the only competitor to Xiaomi at that time was Samsung. And people who were using Samsung ka budget phones, they were pretty annoyed with Samsung, right? Because again, the quality of the phone was not great. It used to come with a lot of bloatware, and it used to lack updates. If you have used Samsung phone in like 2016, 2018, 2017, that kind of period, 2015 to 2018, they didn't used to have very, very good history of giving updates. So Xiaomi actually found out the issue. They actually made a very budget range smartphone. I think their phone used to be in the range of less than 15,000, in which it was packed with all the great features. and very price conscious. They used to at one point of time they didn't even used to have like 15 to 20% profit margins. So they were keeping very less to themselves. But I think because of that, within 2 to 3 years, they were able to reach the product market fit, and suddenly Xiaomi was the highest selling smartphone in India. So you can actually cross check these numbers on the internet, and you'll find that Xiaomi suddenly became a massive trend. Everyone was buying Redmi and Xiaomi. The same happened very recently in the last 2 years with if you talk about Realme. So Realme came as a competitor to Redmi phones, and Realme again, tried to level up the game even further. They actually made even more. They had even a more competitive pricing with even better features, and they were able to crack the market. And at this time, Realme has a very significant share. Realme, by the way, is again belongs to the parent company Oppo. Even OnePlus belongs to the parent company Oppo. So these are like subsidiary business units, SBUs, what do you call them? So so I think Chinese market right now, like the Chinese phone, they actually have 80 to 85% of the Indian market share right now. Only the 15% is any other manufacturers like Intex, or maybe other American manufacturers like Apple, and maybe like Samsung and all these. But 80%, 80 to 85% right now, Indian smartphone market is captured by these Chinese giants like Oppo and Xiaomi, right? So I think that's a very perfect example of product market fit. Another beautiful example which I am just coming to. How many of you have Jio in your phone? How many of you are using Jio network? Anyone who's using
So
Jio
most
network,
of us
or
are
at least
using Geo.
most of you are using Jio, or at least you might have at least bought it when they launched this Jio Dandanadan offer, where they were giving like 1 year complete talk time free and everything. Do you guys remember that 2017, 2016 era when
Yes,
Jio
sir.
launched
Yes, sir.
Jio SIM, and the product was out of the market? You were not able to even manage the Jio SIM. Do you guys remember that time when you were not even able to get the Jio SIM because it was completely viral? It was everywhere, right? So that's a perfect example of product market fit, because Mukesh Ambani saw three things in Jio. One, I think the infrastructure, structurally, the product which was selling in the Indian market, that was like 2G and the 3G. 3G was launched only like 2 years. It was in the early stages. 3G was again in very early stages. You didn't used to really get good 3G signals even. It was only 2 years 3G was launched, and I think the data was one of the things which was not very something which was used by a lot of people. If you remember, before 4G came, before Jio launched its plans, people used to hardly use maybe like some not more than like 2 GB of data in a month, or 5 GB of data. That was really a time back in 2016, because internet speeds were limited. People were only getting these prepaid plans where they were just recharging and getting fixed amount of talk time. And again, there was a lot of monopoly in the market. So I think Mukesh Ambani saw that. He made like three changes, and the complete business model changed, right? So the first thing they did was they made the calling completely free. uh, and I think initially, so they just that was a marketing thing. They just made everything free for that matter. But later on, they started charging. Even if you see the Jio now, they don't charge you for the talking. The calling is completely free. What they charge you is only for the data, right? So that was the exact business model they had come with. The calling would be completely free. The data would be something which they will charge for, and the data will be of very high bandwidth. They are providing you 4G network with up to like 10 Mbps speed, something which generally comes, right? So I think that was an instant hit, because they knew the market very well. They knew ki people would really want internet, because as these apps are expanding in other Western countries. If you see US, if you see even in Asian countries like China and Japan, you know, the apps are currently dominating. And 2015, 2016, if you see, the apps were currently, the mobile apps was completely dominating. And in India, that was the time when there was these Chinese manufacturers. They had launched very very cheap smartphones, so everyone was going to have a good decent smartphone in their hand. And that was the perfect opportunity for them to have something like a good internet speeds at that time. And I think they just went with it. They made the data completely free. They made the calling completely free to increase the adoption, and that completely worked out. That resonated with the customer. Within like months, I know Geo was completely sold off, and you didn't used to get even Geo SIM back then. You had to wait in lines and you had to request and whatnot. So I think that is the perfect example of product market fit. When people are dying to get what you are selling, that's exactly the product market fit, right? And I think that if you see any successful product, if you see Apple in the case of iPhone, it was an instant hit, because before iPhone there was nothing of the sort of what you call smartphones. iPhone was the first phone which was launched in, I think, around 2007, 2006, 2007. It used to have Google Maps, not Google Maps. It used to have its own Apple Maps. It used to have a music player, and it used to have like this calling feature and everything, coupled with all these smart app features and everything. And it became instant hit within 1 year. It just sold like crazy, right? So basically that's exactly what it means to get product market fit. Once you get the product market fit, it will resonate with the market, and people will just go crazy about your product. This is exactly what product market fit looks like. Also, talking about what product market doesn't looks like is something like this whole thing which I explained you just. So these are small bumps which you will anyways get, uh, you know, in the meantime when you are launching your product. Maybe some marketing campaigns really go viral. Maybe some of your articles, maybe some of your press releases will go viral, and you'll get sudden bumps. But that's really not the product market fit. Product market fit basically means ki you will see a continuous growth from that time onwards. It will not be like it increased and then it decreased. This is not product market fit. What product market fit is something like this. This is exactly how a product market fit will look like. From then forward, you'll see a continuous growth. Again, this continuous growth will not, keep on continuing forever. Again, I'll just correct this, because again, don't get me wrong here, but this continuous growth is not going to be forever. If you see more realistic graph, what it will actually look like is something of this sort. You will see growth, and after that you will see this growth has flattened out. Can anyone now explain me why does this growth will flatten out if your product is a successful hit? Even then, why do you see your growth as in flattening out? Can anyone tell me the
Market
rationale?
saturation.
What?
Market saturation.
Market saturation, exactly. Who said this?
Umesh.
Umesh. Great answer, market saturation. So what basically now happens is you have already saturated your complete market. So whenever you start off with maybe a small niche, what we call. So let's say when we started Melvano, we started with the test preparation thing, and also that for just one exam, which was JEE at that time. Right now we have two exams, and we are also launching a third one. We already have JEE NEET, and we are also launching UPSC in another 2-3 months. So once you actually reach the product market fit, you will see that kind of growth. But over the time, that will saturate, because the market is not growing that fast, right? The market, you will be able to saturate the market pretty soon. And after that, what you need to do is the next part of the story is you will launch subsequent markets. You will expand horizontally in that case. So let's say in case of Melvano, we first launched JEE. Once we were able to kind of saturate it, we went for the NEET, and then we'll go forward with, let's say, UPSC and other exams. Same happened with, let's say, the case of Amazon. So Amazon launched as a online bookstore. It started with an online bookstore, but once it was able to completely dominate that, saturate that, then they started with other things like electronics and other parts. So I think that's exactly what happens. Take the case of Zomato. Zomato just had a bumper IPO the last week. So talk the case of Zomato. Zomato started as a restaurant listing and restaurant booking service, and then it quickly saturated the whole market. And after that, it just went on to subsequent market, which is the food delivery. Now they are also in the cloud kitchens, right? And they're also now working with something like EVs and other things and other spaces, right? So again, this is how the whole thing will be. Once you get the product market fit, now your problem space will become even bigger. You will also target the adjacent markets, and then you again have to again strive for again reaching the product market fit, because now since you are targeting the adjacent market, again your product market fit will again change. So again you have to iterate, and again then try to reach the product market fit. Once you do that, again you will saturate the market, again you will launch in the subsequent markets, and again you will again have to reach this product market fit. But again the journey becomes much easier then forward. Giving another good example of this would be, I would say, something like Facebook. If you remember, Facebook started with as a communication platform between college students, right? It launched as a communication between inter college kind of a portal where people can share their updates and with their friends and everything. But quickly it just saturated that whole market, and after that they just made it for the other sections. But always when you start off, you always start off with a very small section of the market, and then you launch when once you reach the product market fit, then you launch it in the adjacent markets then forward. So if I try to draw even a more realistic graph in this case, it will look something of this sort. So a more realistic graph will look something of this sort. Maybe I'll change the time axis now, since I want to talk about the bigger picture. So let's say this is, let's say 1 year, this is, let's say 2 years, this is 3 years, this is 4 years, and this is 5 years. And let's say this is where you reach your product market fit. So let's say once this happens, you actually are going somewhat like this. You reach the product market fit, then you saturate, and then you launch in the subsequent markets. Then you again grow like this. Again, you reach your new product market fit. And again, you grow like this, and again, you saturate. So again, it will be more like you will grow, then you will kind of grow exponentially. Once you reach the product market fit, you will saturate, it will flatten out, and again you launch it in the subsequent markets, again try to grow slowly, again you get the new product market fit, again you grow exponentially, again it flattens out once you are you are saturated. So again this is the whole process what goes like, and this is exactly what a complete life cycle of any startup looks in a very longer time frame. So what I try to explain here is how this whole thing evolves over the time. Okay, now let's without further ado, let's also try to visualize how exactly you get product market fit, because now we have understood what product market fit looks like. And again, just to again explain this is not just valid for just one metric. This is also valid for the other metrics. This is not just valid for the number of users. If you talk about retention metrics, your retention will also grow once you reach the product market fit. Again, the flattening out might be like little more sooner, but again, all the curves, all the metrics, at least the vanity metrics which you're keeping a track of, they will show such similar kind of growth when you reach the product market fit. Okay. So I hope this is at least clear. So we can move on to the next section. So I hope, can you guys just quickly give me a yes or no if this is clear, so we can
Yes,
just
sir.
talk about how to reach product market fit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think Shiv Shankar Sharma, he raised his hand. Do you want to ask anything?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, good. So no problem. I think we have understood about the product market fit, what it looks like. Now let's talk about how to find the product market fit, which is the less talked question, because I think you will, if you Google about product market fit, you will actually find hundreds and hundreds of people explaining what exactly product market fit is. But nobody will talk about how do you reach product market fit, because I think if we talk about product management as a field in itself, product management as a field itself has evolved in the last 5 years. If you talk about 2015, 2014, if you talk about product managers back then, uh, product management was not in itself, it was not a profession. There used to be only technology heads or CTOs leading the product. There didn't used to be anything like product manager 7 to 8 years back. I'm talking about something like 2010, 2012. Product management was something whose foundation was actually laid by Steve Jobs, because in itself, product management, a lot of lessons have been given by Steve Jobs, directly or indirectly, you can say. But uh, technically, he's the father of product management, if we talk about. And taking his lessons, and also many other people who have worked in the product industry, product management has actually come into picture in the last, technically from the last 5 6 years, from 2015 I can say. There didn't used to be any product managers in 2010, 2012. If you look around, you'll only find product management as a field has only grown in the last couple of years. Okay. So that's for that matter, not everybody knows how to reach that product market fit. Everyone thinks they just get the feedback, they conceptualize and this and that and everything, and they'll get product market fit. But that's not the very right approach. So let's talk about how to reach product market fit. So first thing about reaching about product market fit is the metrics which you optimize. Okay, so you have to first choose one of the metrics which one can optimize, and actually they can with that optimization you can keep a track of are you reaching closer to the product market fit or not. So for that matter, one can take any of these metrics. You can take retention, you can take user growth is obviously not the one of them, because you cannot really optimize the user growth. What you can really optimize is the time spent by the user on the app. You can also optimize, let's say, something like retention metrics and all. But typically, when we talk about reaching product market fit, the one of the metrics I would say they optimize is something called NPS score. Okay, so I'll just write it down. NPS score. How many of you know what is an NPS score? Any of you know what is an NPS score? Anyone can answer it. Anyone knows the full form of NPS score? Okay, no problem. So NPS basically means Net Promoter Score. I'll also write this down. Has anyone heard of NPS score? Just quickly say yes or no. Can every one of you tell yes or no if you have heard of it or not heard of it? Just say yes or no. That's okay. You can unmute yourself. You can say it on this. That's okay. You don't have to really text. You can say yes or no.
No, sir.
Not even one. Rashi, have you heard of NPS?
No, sir.
Okay. But I can prove
Sir,
that all of
can
you
I
have heard
assume?
about NPS. Yeah?
Excuse me. I
Yeah,
am not
Umesh, tell
clear,
me.
but I think it is something like that. If any startup have NPS score of 4 or more, then it really makes some impact in market.
No, not really, but okay, okay. I'll come to this, but none of you have
Okay.
heard, Rashi, even not even you, not even you have heard of NPS score.
Sir, I think it basically measures how many people are promoting the particular company or the product.
You are kind of close to it, but I will say that every one of you here, I am pretty sure you have actually heard about NPS score. You might not be very familiar with it, but I am dead sure you have actually seen this net promoter score. Acha, just tell me this question: how many of you have used a Windows ka laptop or any Windows ka product, Windows or something of that sort? How many of you have used Windows ka laptop, Windows ka operating system?
So I have used, but I am
You have
using
used,
right now also.
you're using right now. So Rashi, have you heard of this question? How likely are you to recommend Windows to your friend on a scale of 0 to 10?
Yes, sir.
This is exactly what goes into Net Promoter Score. So that question is asked when companies are recording Net Promoter Score. How many of you guys have heard this question on a scale of 0 to 10 or on a scale of 1 to 10? How likely are you to recommend this particular product to your friend? How many of you have heard this question somewhere? In survey forms, Vaibhav has said he has heard this in survey forms. Right. Vanshika has said she has heard it. Right. In ratings, Rahul is saying, right. So exactly, every one of you in online shopping or everywhere you see, you will actually see this particular kind of question which is asked on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to recommend this product? Right. And basically, on the basis of the responses, what kind of rating people are giving, you calculate the net promoter score. So basically, net promoter score is basically, if I talk about, it has two components. How to really calculate net promoter score is you send out a survey form where you ask people to rate the likeliness. You ask them the likeliness of recommending the product to their friend, referring the product to their friend. That's why the name comes promoter score. How many people are promoting the product? Why does the net come? I'll tell you why this net is also coming. It will be very clear once I write this formula. So it has two parts to it. One is this whole box, and then there is a minus, and then there is another whole box. Okay. The first part of calculating this whole thing is once you have got this whole survey from people where people have rated on a scale of 1 to 10 about willingness to likeliness to recommend the product, you get all the rating, like someone has rated 5, someone has rated 8, someone has rated 10. You get all the responses from all the people uh, who have used your product. So based on that, there are two things which you need. One is people who have rated your product 9 or 10. So in the first box, I'll write people who rated 9 or 10. So the first box is number of people or percentage of people who have rated your product 9 or 10. Okay. So this is percentage of people who have rated your product 9 or 10. Please ignore my handwriting because I'm just writing it with my finger. My pen is not working, so I hope it's at least clear for now. Minus what is the other term? The other term is percentage of people who have rated anything between 1 to 6. Okay. Okay. So basically, it has two parts. How do you calculate net promoter score? Is first you find out what percentage of audience has rated your product 9 or 10. And then you subtract from that number, you subtract percentage of people who have rated your product anything between 1 to 6. If you subtract these two numbers, then you get what is called as a net promoter score. So that's exactly what it comes to. So basically the first box which you are seeing here, this first box, these people who have rated your product 9 or 10, these are called promoters. Okay, these are the exact people who are called promoters. Promoters means these are the people who are promoting your product, who are actively referring your product. That's the reason they are rated at 9 and 10. And the second box which you are seeing here, this is the second box which you are seeing here. These people are called de-promoters. These are the people who are not promoting your product, or even worse, they are actually maybe they don't like your product, and they are actually maybe stopping the growth of your product. Okay. So basically the net promoter score is derived from the difference of these two numbers, and that's exactly how the name comes, net promoter score. Right, the net is because it's the difference of these two segment, promoters and de-promoters के बीच में the difference. That's why it's the net promoter score. It's a score. So that's how the name comes. NPS means net promoter score. So let's take a very small example. So let's say I sent out this form, about how likely are you to recommend Melvano, and let's say percentage of people who rated 1 to let's say 6. These are let's say 20% people. And people who rated let's say 7 and 8, these are let's say again 20% people. And then people who rated 9 and 10, these people are let's say remaining 60%. So my net promoter score in this case will be 60 minus 20, which is 40. So my net promoter score in that case for the product would be 40. What is a good net promoter score? I think we should also talk about that. So promoter score, again, it comes on a scale of 0 to 100. Okay, it will come on a scale of 0 to 100. So if you have anything greater than 70, I'll just make it green. This is called a very good net promoter score. So if you have anything greater than 70, then you are doing a great job. If it's something, put yellow maybe. Okay. So this is the region if your product has got something between 40 to 70. Again, these terms are not very absolute. Some people say this as 70, some people say this as 60. So again, these are not very absolute things. 70 is something which you will see in textbooks. If you go by the industry standards, you will actually see something like this number will be something like 60. 60 is a good enough score. If you have 60, then you are doing great. If you have 60 more than 60, you are doing great. Anything between 40 to 60, this is called a weak product market fit. Anything between 60 to 100, that's called a strong product market fit. And anything between 0 to 40 is basically a very poor product market fit. So this is something which is in the red range. So it's not very a good sign if you have something like a So basically, if you have anything less than 40, I think your product really doesn't solves the user problem. So I think this becomes very clear. So what you really have to now do is you have to take feedback. You have to keep collecting this data over the time, and then you have to try to optimize this whole number and try to become more than 60. If you reach that 60 wala bar, you reach a very strong product market fit. It means that people are now going to refer your product. It's very highly likely people will be referring your product, right? So this is how this whole thing works. But the story doesn't really end here. I'm not sure how much time we have. Rashi, how much time do we have? Like, I'll just try to wrap it up in that case.
Maybe 10 minutes, Taran.
10 minutes. Okay. I think that's more than enough. Okay. So I'll just try to wrap it up as soon as possible. Okay. So once we have understood how this whole product market fit and what kind of numbers these should be, we'll also discuss a bit more on how exactly we can like reach what is the step-by-step process about how you can actually reach product market fit. Okay, someone has asked the question: is Google Opinion Rewards also NPS? Google Opinion Reward. I am not very sure about Google Opinion. I've not used this, so I can't really comment about that. I have actually not used the app, Google Opinion app, but I'll definitely check it out. You can actually mail me about it so I can like take it offline sometime. So anyways, that's okay. Okay, so how do you exactly reach product market fit? What is the step-by-step process? Okay, so the step-by-step process is also, and again, there is one more disclaimer here. So when you take this form survey from people, how likely are you to recommend your product? You have to make sure you are, asking people who have actually used your product. You don't take this survey from the people who have not used your product, because that will lead to a lot of bias answers, and that will also lead to wrong results, which you don't really need. You need to see people who have actually thoroughly used your product overall, right? Only those people you send out the survey and you calculate the net promoter score. But again, going forward, before even jumping onto this, I'll just also want to talk about a new metric which has been developed for the NPS. So people have actually ditched the old system where you ask the likeliness of the product. People have actually switched to the new version, the lean product version of this, which is again given by Eric Ries. So in this case, what you really ask the question is, instead of asking how likely are you to recommend this product, you ask them a different question. You ask them ki how would you feel if you could no longer use the product? So in case of Melvano, we will ask them ki how would you feel if you are not able to use the Melvano app anymore? And you give them three options. You basically give them three options. One is very disappointed. Second is somewhat disappointed. And the third is not disappointed. Some of you might have seen some of these startups using this kind of a rating, but this is fairly new. This has been developed in the last 1 year. And instead of calculating promoter minus depromoter, here we simply, what we do is we just see that just to get product market fit, you just have to make sure people who will be very disappointed should be greater than 40%. As simple as that. So this metric has been part of the lean product management, and it's very simple to use, because you just, instead of asking them how would they like to recommend the product, you ask them even a simpler question: how would you feel if you could no longer use the product, right? And you just have to see how many people respond to that question as very disappointed. So these are the people who are actually going to be your promoters. These are the power users who are actually going to promote your product, who are the most affected by it, who are most disappointed by not being able to use your product. And if this number is greater than 40%, I think you have the product market fit. Okay. I think we'll try to just wrap up the session here. There is a couple of additions to this, but I think this is something which if you get some online resources, I can even send that on how you can step by step take the feedback from the customers and how you can step by step go about reaching your product market fit. But I think we are good on this for now. Yeah.
You wrapped up the session, Tarun?
Yeah, Ravinder.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any questions?
if we have a prototype, what is the best way to market it according to you? So I think the best way to market it is basically, I think what you're trying to ask is how do you go to market with that prototype? So I think the first thing which you should really start with is, and again, this is one of the very big mistakes which a lot of people do, is once they maybe make a prototype, they want to go on spending lot of money on advertising and do this and do that and everything. But when you have really a prototype and you have not really reached the product market fit, the most important thing which you should really do is to actually iterate it as much as possible before you actually start spending money on marketing part. So let's say if I have a very small app, let's say let's take the example of Melvano. In that case, when we started off, the first thing which we started off with, this was completely organic marketing. What we did was we started joining Facebook groups related to JEE. We started even going to coaching centers and taking feedback from the students directly, and even in that case joining some of the WhatsApp groups to market the app, even tying up with some YouTube channels in that case. So these are some organic tricks which you can which don't even cost you a dime, and you can actually just go and market your product, get some valuable feedback. Once you are very sure that you have reached at least what is close to product market fit, if not product market fit, at least close to product market fit, I think then you have numerous options. You can actually run Google ads, Facebook ads, and whatnot. But till the time you have reached product market fit, I think you should try to iterate the product as much as possible and try to keep your burn much low, as low as possible. You should not try to spend money on marketing it much.
Hello. First of all, this is a wonderful session for us, and my question is how the Parle-G company holds its प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट एंड हम ज़्यादातर देखते हैं कि जो हमारे विलेजेस के अंदर विलेजर्स को केवल उनको पता है कि पार्ले-जी ही बिस्किट है, क्या उनको कोई से भी बिस्किट दे दीजिए उनको पार्ले-जी समझते हैं.
Right. So I think it's an interesting question how this works for the FMCG, because right now till now we were discussing about online products where it's possible for you to actually take the surveys and everything. So in case of Parle-G and all the other FMCG companies, what they do is they get the feedback from two places. One is your supply chain. These shopkeepers who are keeping your product, who are placing your product on your shelf, right? They give you a very strong feedback about the product, how it's performing in respect to the competitors, what is exactly selling in the market, what are the people demanding, because these shopkeepers are the ones, these shopkeepers and the distributors, these are the ones who are keeping a track of the market need, कि किस product कितना बिक रहा है, किसका कितना demand आ रहा है, किसका कितना क्या आ रहा है, right? So they actually are the ones in this case who are giving the feedback to companies like Parle-G and all these things. Second thing is they also, Parle-G, if you have seen, they also are doing this sort of kind of focus groups interviews. They actually have they call people like some random 500, 200, 500 people, and they conduct focus group interviews where they ask them typical type of question ki, how do they feel about the product, how do they feel about the packaging, how do they feel about this. But again, Parle-G as a company, I would say ki initially when they launched, I think you have to hustle a lot for actually getting that product market fit. But for any company, once you have reached the product market fit, going from PMF1 to PMF2 becomes much easier, because then you are able to keep a track of the metrics. Because now once you launch the product, I'll give you an example of Domino's. Domino's used to have a very different packaging back then. If you talk about 2010, they changed the packaging somewhere in 2010, 2012 something. If you remember, Domino's ka boxes were very different. So how do they really see if this kind of thing is working or not? They actually see it by keeping a track of what kind of trend has been seen in the terms of the demand. If by using the new packaging, if the demand has increased and the people are also giving a good review, if people are talking about the new packaging much more, I think that really works. But before even they launch the packaging, they do something which is called focus group interviews. They call up couple of people, they hold such sessions where they ask them different type of question, what they feel about the new packaging or the new product or whatever it is, and how does it compare with the old one. So they get a basic data about that. Once they finalize with it, they launch the product, and then they see the actual data, how it turns out, and are they able to improve those metrics, right? So I think this answers your question. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, I guess Umesh wants to ask a question.
Yeah, right. Please.
Sir, at the end,
Umesh?
you were talking about the lean NPM feedback. So I have gone through the Lean
Product market
Startup
fit,
book by Eric Rice. So there was the concept that first we have to grow on organic terms also. So it is that a new startup must grow organically till its MPM score is 40, and later it must promote it by other means like advertising and other things.
Yeah. So basically, basically why it's recommended to say organic until you reach the product market fit, because product market fit, basically what it means is ki I'll try to even explain it better with the help of this one small example, if you can see. So basically, this is exactly let's say a bucket. This bucket is your product. Okay. And then there is something like a tap which is filling in water. Okay. So there is this product there are people coming here. This water is basically your users. Okay. But this bucket has one problem. This bucket has a hole inside this. And people are also leaving. This water is also leaving. So the user are also leaving. This is called churned users. Okay. So what is basically happening is ki you are doing marketing, you are getting users from here. These users use your product is more like a bucket. But again, since this bucket has holes, so water is also leaving. Your users are also leaving. So people come, they use your product, and they also leave, right? When you have not reached product market fit, what is happening is the number of users which are coming, the same amount of users are also leaving. So if you get like 500 users here, you will see at least like 400 people have left the app maybe within like 1 month, or maybe like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, depending on your product, right? So what happens when you reach the product market fit? You actually just fix this this hole in between of the product. So people stop leaving your product because your product is so good. People are not leaving. So this, once you're getting these 500 users, at least let's say something like only 10 people will be leaving the product instead of that 400. So that is the difference. So why it is recommended that you do the organic marketing? Because organic marketing doesn't cost you money. You just have to spend nothing or even as little as possible. So you are not really wasting your money on ads and all these things before you get the product market fit. It also helps you stay lean, right? But if you are doing a lot of organic marketing before product market fit, whatever marketing you are doing, all these people will come to your product. They will leak out of your product. They will actually churn out. So all your marketing budget is going waste. For an example, if 80% of people are leaving your product, whatever money you spent on gaining this product, 80% of that is going waste. So again, that's not a very good thing to happen for any product. So that's why it's recommended ki till you get the product market fit, stay as lean as possible. Only market through organic channels, and don't use these paid channels. I hope that answers.
Thank you so much, Taran. Thank you for such an insightful presentation. Had it been not for the time limitations, probably I would have asked you to extend it even more. The way you were explaining with the practical examples, a very pragmatic approach you were giving, right from product market fit to product management to you told about NPS. And all the time I was thinking, probably being very selfish, I was thinking, okay, this is also endeavor we have started. Like it's only been almost 20 days you started with these webinars pertaining to entrepreneurship, marketing, and creativity. And I was thinking in terms of the attendance and how many people are attending and how the speakers are received by our participants. And I couldn't help myself but thinking, what is going to be your NPS, like, or in our NPS, in terms of organizing these webinars, and in terms of the speaker giving such nice presentations. Maybe we can get few answers on this. How would you rate this? What score would you like to give from the user side, the participants?
Sure. I think we should definitely send out such forms to all the participants who are, attending the session. I think they should also rate us on a scale of maybe, let's say, 1 to 10. And we should also...
we do have a feedback form, and every time I request the students to be very genuine and honest about it, rather than writing it was very insightful, it was very interesting. Many a times it actually is, and many a times we have you always have a room for improvement. And this is the feedback which would always help either the speaker or the organizer to improve it further. So it's a very good way, the way you describe NPS, and you have a score, and this is how you keep on iterating yourself, and you make yourself better. So in the same manner, we would also like our participants to give an honest feedback about how they feel when we are organizing such sessions, and how they feel about each presenter, the resource person who is presenting. And it was really very interesting, Taran. I have heard you a couple of times, and it's always been awesome. It's sweet to the ears. And on that note, a big thank you to you. Before actually we wind up, can we have one? Can I request all the participants to please switch on your cameras so that we can have a screenshot? You can stop sharing your screen, Taran, and we can have you instead.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I'll disconnect from that device.
I apologize from the persons of ICT, Rajkumar ji and Sandeep ji, for extending the time. I'm so sorry, and we'll be more careful in the future. Probably we'll set the timing accordingly. But the session was so interesting, I couldn't say ki, let's make it brief. Has everyone switched on their cameras? Rajkumar ji, can we have a screenshot?
Yeah, ma'am, taking. Done, ma'am. I have taken.
Okay, thank you so much. So on that note, again, a very big thank you, Taran, and looking forward to many more interactions with you. I'm sure the students have had their experience, a wonderful experience, a learning experience with such an insightful session. And I'm thankful to all my colleagues, to all the team members who were present. And nevertheless, as I always say, the student convener Rashi, who manages the entire thing, Rashi and her team. And before leaving, I request all of you to kindly fill the feedback form, give a genuine feedback so that it helps us. Again, as all the speakers tell you, it's always an iterative process. Taran also said the same thing. And let's improve our NPS score by your feedback. And thanks to the ICT team, Rajkumar ji and Sandeep ji, and nevertheless, all the participants who have attended the session. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you all. Thank you, Taran. And all my best wishes. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.